What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? That chilling thought flashed across Mia Carter's mind as the sleek, black sedan pulled up outside the towering glass and stone facade of the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. The air crackled with a strange mix of curiosity and danger. Mia watched, holding her breath as the tinted windows rolled down. Stepping out into the crisp D.C. air was none other than the world-renowned innovator, Elon Musk. What was he doing here? This single moment felt like the first tremor before a massive earthquake. What's the one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For Mia, in that split second, she wondered if she was about to face a new beginning, whether she wanted to or not. The lobby of FBI headquarters was a controlled storm of activity, a low hum of agents, analysts, and security guards moving with quiet, urgent purpose. The overhead lights cast sharp, sterile reflections on the polished floor, making everything feel colder, more serious. Mia's FBI badge, usually a source of pride, felt like a lead weight against her chest. She deliberately stayed near the back, a shadow watching the unbelievable scene unfold. Elon Musk, looking as calm as if he were at a product launch, handed a slim, unmarked briefcase to one of the senior agents. He spoke in measured, confident tones, his voice too low for Mia to catch the words, but the intent was clear. He then requested a meeting with the director. Immediately, the director, a stern, no-nonsense woman named Patricia Halloway, rose from her seat behind a secure desk and glided forward. A hush fell over the entire lobby. The waiting agents and analysts inhaled collectively. You could feel the unspoken question hanging in the air. What is happening? Mia's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the sudden silence. Just 2 months ago, she would have laughed if someone told her she'd be witnessing this. 2 months ago, she was just another analyst, her life a predictable routine. Her morning had even started the same as any other. Strong coffee, a quick briefing, and logging into the cyber intel dashboard to hunt for digital threats. But then a memo had come down from the top, high-priority meeting, all hands off. An order that essentially froze all non-essential operations. She wasn't on the invite list, not even close. She was supposed to be at her desk, staring at code. Yet here she was, drawn by a gut feeling, a relentless curiosity that told her this was a moment that could change everything. Her gaze drifted to the iconic emblem behind the main reception desk, the eagle, the shield, and the bold words, Federal Bureau of Investigation. A symbol of order, of justice. Then, she looked back at the surreal figure of Elon Musk, the man who launched rockets into space, who built futuristic electric cars, who was single-handedly trying to reshape the future of humanity. And he was standing right here, in the heart of American law enforcement. The juxtaposition was jarring, almost nonsensical. What could he possibly want? Why now? Mia's mind raced, cycling through a dozen wild possibilities. Was this a formal merger of private innovation and national security? A secret, government-sanctioned project that needed his unique genius? Or was it something darker, something that had forced him to seek the FBI's protection or intervention? Every scenario felt both plausible and completely insane. The briefcase he'd handed over, what was inside? Tech schematics? Evidence of a global conspiracy? The key to a new technology that could either save the world or destroy it? She thought back to that initial, terrifying question. What if you lost everything? It was a question she'd been asking herself a lot lately. After a personal tragedy had shattered her world, she'd thrown herself into her work at the Bureau. It was her anchor, the one solid thing in a sea of grief. But standing here now, watching this impossible scene, she realized her safe harbor might be the epicenter of a new storm. She felt a strange sense of connection to the moment, as if her own fractured life was somehow intertwined with this larger unfolding drama. The director led Elon Musk toward a reinforced, soundproofed conference room, the one reserved for matters of the highest national security. The fishbowl, they called it. As they walked, a few of the Bureau's top agents fell in step behind them, their faces grim, their postures rigid. They disappeared inside, and the heavy door clicked shut, sealing the secrets within. The lobby slowly returned to its low hum, but the tension remained. thicker than before. Everyone was pretending to work, but Mia knew their minds were all on that closed door. Just like hers, she knew she couldn't just stand there. Ignoring the all-hands-off order, Mia slipped back to her desk, her mind a whirlwind. Her instincts, honed by years of digital forensics and pattern recognition, were screaming. This wasn't just a meeting. This was a crisis. She logged into her terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She wasn't a field agent, but she was a world-class digital ghost. She could navigate the darkest corners of the web, bypass firewalls and uncover secrets buried under layers of code. She started with the basics. Any unusual chatter, any blips in financial markets, any encrypted communications that mentioned Musk or his companies in the last 48 hours. What she found made her blood run cold. It wasn't one thing, but a series of small, seemingly unrelated anomalies that, when viewed together, painted a terrifying picture. A sudden, massive short-selling attack on Musk's company stocks timed to the millisecond. A series of encrypted data packets bouncing off obscure satellites, originating from untraceable locations. And a whisper on a clandestine dark web forum, a single phrase in Russian. The Falcon has been caged. It was all happening right now, a silent, digital war being waged in the shadows. Elon Musk wasn't here to propose a project. He was under attack, and he had come to the only place he believed could help him fight back. Mia realized she was holding a piece of a puzzle that even Director Holloway might not have yet. She had a choice. She could follow orders, stay out of it, and let the top brass handle it. Or she could risk her career, everything she had rebuilt, by pushing this information up the chain. She looked at the closed door of the conference room. Behind it, a man who dared to dream of Mars was fighting for his legacy on Earth. And she, Mia Carter, a grieving analyst hiding from her own life, might be the only one who held the key to his survival. The thought was terrifying, but for the first time in a long time, it also made her feel alive. A new beginning was here, and it had arrived with the force of a rocket launch. This story is just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when the next chapter drops. Leave a comment below with where you're watching from in the world. We love seeing our global community. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next one. A sharp voice cut through the murmur of the FBI headquarters. Ma'am, your badge. My heart hammered against my ribs. I fumbled in my pocket, my fingers suddenly clumsy. Was this it? Was I about to be escorted out on my first big day? Just as panic began to set in, a calm, familiar voice whispered, Mia, come with me. It was my mentor, Angela Calloway. She led me away from the security desk, into a glass-encased corridor overlooking the Potomac River. The late afternoon sun slanted in, casting long, dramatic shadows that seemed to stretch into the future. Angela's eyes, usually warm, were grave. Mia, I know you're not formally assigned to this, she began, her voice low. But I want you on board. There's something unusual about this visitor. I need you to stay sharp. My palms grew slick with sweat. I could only nod, the weight of something huge and unspoken pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. Instantly, my mind flashed back to my childhood, a small town in Virginia. My father, Robert Carter, a respected FBI special agent, his voice a constant echo in my head. Do what's right, Mia. He was strict, principled, a man of black and white. Then there was my mother, Elaine. She was the color, the creativity, a painter who filled our home with light. And then when I was 16, she was gone. Vanished. The official story was a sterile, impersonal lie, transferred to witness protection for a secret assignment. No details, no goodbyes, just a gaping hole where my mother used to be. I've carried that ache ever since, a constant tug of war between the hope that she's out there somewhere safe and the chilling fear that she's not. It was that loss, that gnawing uncertainty that pushed me into this world. Cyber intelligence, a place of control, of order, a place where I could uncover the things people hide, where I could make sense of the senseless. I clawed my way into the FBI's Cyber Intelligence Division, driven by a relentless need to prove myself. But the past is a stubborn ghost. I still live with the guilt of not being there when my father left for his last fatal assignment. And I live with the fear that I failed my mother by not asking the right questions, by not seeing the signs. That weight has made me brittle at times, but it's also made me resourceful. It's my fuel. Following Angela down the corridor, the silence felt heavy. I finally found my voice asking softly, "What exactly is happening?" Angela stopped and fixed me with a steady, unblinking look. "Elon Musk is here," she said, each word landing like a stone. "He's here to see classified Project X." The name sent a jolt through me. Project X. It was a phantom, a whisper I'd heard in the hallways for years. A project my father had mentioned only once in a hushed, strained tone. The project that seemed to derail his career, that coincided with the fracturing of our family. Angela continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's been locked down for years, passed between departments like a hot potato. Very few people even know it exists. We don't know why Musk has been brought in, but he's demanding access. If he gets it, things could shift drastically, globally." My pulse was a frantic drum against my ears. My mind was spinning, connecting dots I never knew existed. What if this project, this mysterious Project X, was the key? What if it had something to do with my mother's disappearance? The personal and the professional were colliding with the force of a freight train. The security guard's challenge now seemed like a distant memory, a trivial hurdle. I was in. I was on the inside of something that felt bigger than the FBI, bigger than any case I had ever imagined. The questions swirled in my head, a dizzying vortex. Why Elon Musk? What was so important about Project X that it had been buried for decades? And the most terrifying, most hopeful question of all, could this finally lead me to the truth about my mother? Standing there, with the fate of a secret project and the ghosts of my own past hanging in the balance, I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to change forever. I had to stay sharp, just as Angela said. I had to uncover the truth, not just for the Bureau, but for myself. The game was on, and I was finally a player. Thank you so much for watching. If you're as intrigued as I am to see what happens next with Mia and Project X, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, so you don't miss a single update. We'll see you in the next one. Have you ever felt like you're just a small part of a huge machine going through the motions every single day? That was my life. I'm Mia, an agent in the FBI's cyber intelligence wing. My days were predictable, a routine of reports, data, and the endless hum of servers. The most exciting part of my day was watching the sun cut through the dusty blinds of my office. A brief, beautiful moment before it all faded back to gray. I told myself this was simpler, safer. But deep down, I knew I was running from something. Running from the questions about my past, about the mother I never knew and the father whose name I carried like a secret. Then one day the machine glitched. The routine shattered. He walked in. Elon Musk. Not on a news broadcast or a magazine cover, but right here, in the heart of FBI headquarters. The air crackled with a new kind of energy. Whispers followed him down the sterile hallways like a current. My boss Angela pulled me aside, her face a mask of urgency. "He's here for something big, Mia," she said, "and you're in." Just like that, my world tilted on its axis. I was assigned as his liaison. Me. Logistics, file flow, tracking. I felt a surge of pride mixed with a cold, terrifying dread. What could a tech visionary possibly want from the FBI? We were ushered into the inner boardroom, a place usually reserved for the highest level briefings. The air was thick with tension. The Bureau's top agents, men and women I'd only ever seen in passing, were all there, their faces grim. Elon Musk stood at the head of the table, not with the swagger you see online, but with a calm, focused authority that silenced the room. The projector flickered to life, and the world as I knew it began to unravel. He started talking about something called Project X. It wasn't just another AI, he explained. It was a leap in human-machine integration, a technology so powerful it could reshape society. But with great power comes great risk. He showed us maps, complex schematics, and lines of code that flew across the screen faster than I could read. Then, he showed us something that wasn't on any public blueprint, a satellite view of our own headquarters, revealing a secret underground level. A collective gasp went through the room. My jaw literally dropped. We were sitting on top of a secret we didn't even know existed. "The potential for misuse is enormous," Elon said, his voice steady. "If the wrong hands access Project X, the consequences could be catastrophic." A heavy silence fell over the boardroom. The director, a man who rarely showed emotion, looked at Elon. "Mr. Musk, the FBI must maintain oversight. We need to know your safeguards, your end use." Elon nodded. "I agree," he replied, "but I have reason to believe someone inside this building is already trying to bypass those safeguards. I need access. Now." The room erupted in hushed, frantic whispers. Agents exchanged uneasy glances. Who could it be? A mole, here? The idea was unthinkable. I felt a tremor run through me, a mix of fear and a strange, thrilling excitement. I was on the edge of something massive, a story that would define my career, maybe even my life. But I had no idea just how personal this story was about to become. Then came the twist that stopped my heart. Elon placed a sleek black briefcase on the table and opened it. Inside, nestled in custom-cut foam, weren't weapons or gadgets. They were blueprints. Blueprints for a neural quantum processor, a piece of technology decades ahead of its time. And in the corner of the document, in crisp, clear lettering, was a name. Carter, my father's surname. My surname. "Patient Zero?" An agent muttered from across the room. The words hung in the air, sharp and heavy. My blood ran cold. The chatter in the room faded into a dull roar in my ears. All I could see was that name, Carter. Suddenly, it all clicked into place. This wasn't a random assignment. Elon Musk's arrival wasn't a coincidence. This was about my family. About me. The room exploded into chaos. Security agents were suddenly divided, some moving to support Elon, others forming a line to block his path to the secure servers. The atmosphere crackled, charged with suspicion and aggression. It felt like the entire building was holding its breath, ready to fracture. I just sat there frozen, trying to breathe. My past, the one I had so carefully boxed up and hidden away, was colliding with my present in the most spectacular, terrifying way imaginable. For years, the one thing that kept me going, the thing that pushed me through the toughest days, was the faint hope of one day finding out what happened to my mother. It was a quiet dream I kept locked away. But now everything was different. This wasn't just about my mother anymore. It was about my father's legacy, about a technology that could change the world, and about a conspiracy that reached into the very heart of the FBI. I took a shaky breath. This was it. The moment my whole life had been unknowingly leading up to. The ground was shifting beneath my feet, and the simple, predictable world I had built for myself was gone forever. I was no longer just a small part of the machine. I was standing at the center of the storm, and I had a choice to make: run and hide, or step forward and face the truth, no matter how dangerous it might be. What would you do? When your entire world is turned upside down, do you fight or do you freeze? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What's the one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For me, it was always about finding answers. Now it seems like the answers are finally finding me. Thank you so much for joining me on the start of this insane journey. If you're as captivated as I am to see what happens next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss a single second of this. We're just getting started. The air in the conference room crackled with unspoken tension. I watched Jamal from across the table. His eyes, usually so warm and trusting, were now narrowed with suspicion. The rift between us, a tiny hairline crack just days ago, was widening into a chasm. It all started when Elon, the enigmatic consultant who'd suddenly appeared in our lives, unveiled a set of blueprints. They were complex, advanced, and stamped with a single chilling word: Carter. My name. Jamal's gaze shot toward me, a silent accusation that hit me with the force of a physical blow. I felt my face flush, my hands clenching into fists under the heavy mahogany table. It was as if every hidden corner of my life was suddenly floodlit, exposed for all to see. The situation escalated when the director, his face a grim mask, announced the new assignments. Mia, you'll be handling all communications for Mr. Elon. Jamal, you'll monitor the log files and report directly to me. My heart sank, side by side. We were placed side by side in the sterile quiet of the operations room, the constant low hum of the servers, a monotonous soundtrack to our shared unease. The silence between us was heavier than the reinforced walls of the facility. For hours, the only sound was the click-clack of Jamal's fingers on his keyboard, a rhythmic, relentless tapping that echoed the frantic beat of my own heart. Then he broke the silence. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it cut through the hum of the machines like a knife. What's your connection to these blueprints, Mia? I froze. The question hung in the air between us, charged and dangerous. My mind raced, a whirlwind of possibilities. Lie? Tell the truth? Neither option felt safe. Lying would only deepen his suspicion. The truth. The truth was a Pandora's box I wasn't sure I was ready to open because I didn't even know what was inside. Before a single word could escape my lips, a piercing shriek ripped through the room. A security alarm. Every monitor in the operations center flashed a violent crimson. Unauthorized access attempt on server cluster 9. The words pulsed in sync with the blaring sirens and the flashing red emergency lights that bathed the room in a hellish glow. Just as the chaos hit its peak, the door flew open, and Angela, our section chief, burst in. "Lock it down, now," she commanded, her voice cutting through the panic. Agents scrambled, voices shouting commands, fingers flying across keyboards trying to contain the breach. I instinctively turned to my console, my training taking over. My eyes scanned the IP logs, tracing the digital footprint of the intruder. And then I saw it. The access attempt wasn't coming from outside the network. It was originating from a terminal inside the vault floor, deep inside our own secure facility. That was impossible. Unthinkable. Amid the pandemonium, Elon rose from his chair, a strange calm settling over him. He was the eye of the storm. "We need to go underground," he declared, his voice ringing with an authority that silenced the room. The director hesitated, his face a canvas of conflict and uncertainty. I felt that familiar, cold pulse of fear creep up my spine. This was my world, the world of systems, firewalls, and secure protocols. A world I thought I knew. I thought I controlled. And it was spinning wildly, dangerously out of control. But then a flicker of something else ignited within the fear. Hope? Curiosity? Elon's gaze found mine, then Jamal's. "I need you two on my team," he said, his voice firm. "You know this building, you know the systems better than anyone. We move now." My heart did a somersault in my chest. 1,000 alarms were going off in my head, screaming at me to stay put, to follow protocol, to let the security teams handle it. Boarding this ride with Elon felt like stepping off a cliff. It meant risking my career, my security, everything I had built. But there was an undeniable pull, a magnetic force drawing me into the heart of this mystery. A mystery that wore my name. I looked at Jamal. His face was a mask of concentration, his sharp eyes weighing the risks. I saw the conflict in them, the same war that was raging inside of me. After a beat that felt like an eternity, he gave a short, reluctant nod. That was it. The decision was made. We fell into step behind Elon, following him to the restricted access elevator at the end of the hall. The doors slid shut, sealing us in a small metal box, and we began our descent. Down, down, 3 levels below ground. With each floor we passed, the air grew colder, the sterile, bright lights of the offices above replaced by weaker industrial fixtures that cast long, dancing shadows. The familiar chatter of colleagues was gone, replaced by the deep, resonant hum of hidden machinery, a sound that vibrated through the soles of our feet. We stepped out into a subterranean corridor. The walls were stark, unforgiving concrete. It felt less like a government building and more like a bunker from a forgotten war. Elon led us down the narrow passageway until we reached a single reinforced steel door. Stenciled across it in bold black letters were two words: Project X, Access Control. Beside the door, a biometric scanner glowed with a soft, eerie light. My breath caught in my throat. This was a place I never knew existed, hidden beneath the floors I walked every day. Agents behind us shuffled their feet, exchanging uneasy looks. This was clearly above their pay grade, beyond their clearance. Elon didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and pressed his palm flat against the glowing reader. For a moment, there was nothing. Then a soft beep, and the light on the scanner flashed from red to green. Access granted. My mind reeled. A buzz of pure, unadulterated suspense shot through me. How? How did he have this level of access? An outside consultant with clearance to the most secure, most secret part of the entire facility? It made no sense. The heavy door hissed open, revealing the chamber within. The low hum we'd felt in the corridor intensified inside the vault, becoming a palpable rhythmic thrum, like the steady heartbeat of some giant, sleeping beast. The room was bathed in a cool, blue-green light that emanated from the servers themselves, reflecting in my wide, astonished eyes. The architecture was breathtaking. It was sleek, futuristic, and utterly startling. This wasn't just a server farm. It was more like a state-of-the-art laboratory from a science fiction film, a cathedral of technology. Wires and conduits ran like silver veins across the walls and ceiling, all converging on a central, cylindrical core. Elon gestured grandly to the incredible sight before us. "This," he said, his voice echoing slightly in the vast, cavernous space, "is where the Carter line begins." I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning I couldn't yet grasp. I finally found my voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "My last name?" I asked, the question feeling impossibly small in the face of this revelation. Elon turned to me, his expression serious, his eyes holding a depth I couldn't fathom. He nodded slowly. "Your father was part of the original team that built this," he explained. "Your mother, she was the only civilian on it. Project X isn't just a server vault, Mia. It's her life's work. And it's yours too, whether you know it or not." The world tilted on its axis, and I knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. Thank you so much for joining me on this part of the journey. What do you think Project X is? Let me know your theories down in the comments. And if you're as hooked as I am, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Ring that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Have you ever felt like the world you knew was a complete lie? Like the floor just gave out from under you, leaving you in a free fall of confusion and betrayal? That's exactly where I found myself, standing in a place I never knew existed, staring at a truth that shattered everything. The air crackled with unspoken secrets, and my own voice, when I finally found it, was a stranger's, shaky and filled with a fury I didn't know I possessed. Why wasn't I told? I demanded, my words cutting through the tense silence. Why did all of this have to be hidden? My whole life, my mother's life. It felt like a carefully constructed deception. Elon, the man who had brought me here, looked at me not with pity, but with a strange, gentle resolve. His calmness was infuriating. "Because not everyone can handle this kind of responsibility, Mia," he said, his voice even. "But now you're being asked to step in. Your unique insight, the code you write, your very history. It all matters more than you can imagine." His words were meant to be inspiring, I guess, but they landed like weights, pulling me deeper into this conspiracy. Just then, Jamal, my oldest friend, the one person I thought I could count on, stepped forward. His face was a thundercloud. "You're just using her," he accused Elon, his voice low and dangerous. I whirled on Jamal, the sting of his words a fresh wound on top of everything else. "Stay out of this," I snapped. The look on his face, it was a mix of hurt and frustration. He took a step back, and in that moment, I felt a chasm open between us. The small misunderstanding we'd had earlier was now a canyon of distrust. We were on opposite sides, and I wasn't even sure what the sides were. My two anchors in this storm, Elon and Jamal, were pulling me in opposite directions. Who was I supposed to trust when my own judgment felt so completely broken? I felt utterly, terrifyingly alone. Suddenly, a voice, cold and metallic, crackled to life over an unseen intercom system, shattering the fragile standoff. Attention all personnel. Incident in the vault area. Security Protocol Alpha is now in effect. All non-essential personnel evacuate immediately. The announcement sent a jolt of pure adrenaline through me. My heart hammered against my ribs. In a blur, uniformed agents began rushing past us, their faces grim, their movements precise and urgent. The controlled quiet of the facility was replaced by the thunder of running feet and the rising hum of an unseen threat. My mind raced. What incident? What vault? Before I could even process the chaos, Elon grabbed my arm, his grip firm and grounding. "We have to keep going," he said, his eyes fixed on the corridor ahead, away from the flow of evacuating personnel. "The threat isn't out there. It's in here, with us." His words made no sense, but there was no time to argue. He was pulling me deeper into the heart of the complex, against the tide of people fleeing for safety. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to follow the others, to get out. But a darker, more powerful curiosity took hold. My mother's secrets were down this path. My answers were down this path. So, with my pulse thrumming in my ears, I let him lead me forward, into the danger. We moved through a labyrinth of sterile hallways until we reached a massive reinforced door. Elon worked a console, and with a heavy hiss of hydraulics, it slid open, revealing a cavernous, climate-controlled chamber. My breath caught in my throat. The room was filled with row upon row of sleek black crates all perfectly aligned. It looked like a high-tech mausoleum. As we walked down the aisle, I saw that each crate was labeled with a name and a code, and I recognized the names. They were former agents, renowned scientists, even civilians who had been declared missing over the years, ghosts from old news reports. My stomach churned. What was this place? Inside each crate, visible through small reinforced windows, were strange, glowing devices, quantum modules. Elon explained, his voice a low murmur beside me. Neural interfaces. They're not just storing data, Mia. They're storing memories, lives. My mind struggled to comprehend the scale of it. It was a library of souls. Then, my eyes landed on one specific crate tucked away in a corner. The label was written in a familiar, elegant script that made my heart stop. It read, EC-001, Elizabeth Carter, my mother's alias. The one she used for her consulting work. "That's her," I whispered, the words barely audible. A wild, desperate hope surged through me. If her memories were here, was she here too? Was she alive? Safe? That flicker of hope was extinguished as quickly as it was lit. The main lights in the vault sputtered and died, plunging us into a disorienting semi-darkness. Then the alarms blared again, louder this time. A deafening, pulsating shriek. Red emergency strobes began to flash, painting the room in terrifying bursts of crimson and shadow. The heavy vault door we'd entered through slammed shut with a deafening clang. We were trapped. Before we could react, another door on the far side of the room burst open, and a squad of heavily armed security guards stormed in, their weapons raised. "You're under arrest for unauthorized access," one of them shouted, his voice amplified by a helmet speaker. My blood ran cold. One of the guards leveled his weapon directly at Elon. I froze, a deer in the headlights, completely paralyzed by fear. In a split second, Elon moved, positioning himself in front of me, shielding me with his own body. He didn't look scared. He looked determined. "We're just getting started," he said to me, his voice low, but steady, a promise and a warning all in one. The guard in front of us hesitated, his stance tightening. I could practically feel the tension in the air, a standoff stretched to its breaking point. It was in that moment, with a weapon pointed at us and alarms screaming, that the familiar, bitter sting of helplessness washed over me again. Then I saw him. Near the back of the squad of guards, half hidden in the flashing red light, was Jamal. He hadn't abandoned me. He'd gone for backup. He'd done his duty. But the look on his face was one of profound conflict. He was caught between his orders and the dawning suspicion in his eyes as he took in the scene. The crates, my mother's name, me. He was seeing that this was bigger and more complicated than a simple breach of security. My heart cracked. The last thread of our teamwork, of our friendship, felt like it was snapping. I was at the absolute center of this storm, and everything I thought I could rely on, my past, my friends, my own sense of right and wrong, was fracturing and slipping right through my fingers. I was losing everything, and the fight had only just begun. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into the electrifying second chapter of a story that's got all of us on the edge of our seats. If you thought the first part was intense, you haven't seen anything yet. So grab your snacks, get comfortable, and let's unravel this mystery together. The last chapter ended on a massive cliffhanger, didn't it? Betrayal was in the air. Alliances were shaky at best, and the past was clawing its way into the present. Our hero, Mia, was standing on the precipice of a revelation she could have never, ever anticipated. The kind of revelation that changes everything. The scene opens with a heart-pounding chase. Imagine this. Mia and her ally, Elon, are sprinting through the dark, cavernous, underground corridors of the FBI headquarters. They're like shadows moving at lightning speed, with the echoes of their own pursuers getting closer and closer. Every sound is magnified. Mia's footsteps clang against the cold metal grates, a frantic rhythm matching the frantic hammering of her own heart. You can almost feel her panic, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The sounds of pursuit are growing louder, more menacing. It's a race against time, and they're losing ground. She throws a quick glance at Elon. His face is a mask of steel, all focus and determination. There's no fear there, just a grim resolve. Their destination? A secret lab. But this isn't just any lab. This is the epicenter of everything, the place where all the twisted threads of this conspiracy converge. And more importantly, it's the place that holds the key to her mother's fate. The corridor finally ends at a massive reinforced door. It looks impenetrable, a dead end. But Elon, cool as ever, raises his badge to the scanner. There's a tense moment of silence, then a satisfying click. The lock disengages. They slip inside, and the world changes. They find themselves in a room walled entirely with glass. It's like an observation deck looking into the heart of the operation. And through that glass, they see her, a woman, seated at a complex console, her hair streaked with silver, her fingers dancing lightly, almost elegantly across the keys. She's so engrossed in her work she doesn't notice them at first. But Mia notices her. Every detail. The way she holds her head, the line of her shoulders. It's all achingly familiar. Mia's chest tightens so fiercely she feels like she can't breathe, like her ribs might just crack. A single word escapes her lips, a whisper so faint it's almost lost in the hum of the machinery. Mom? And just like that, the world stops. The woman at the console looks up. Her eyes meet Mia's through the glass, and in that instant, a flash of recognition. It's pure, undeniable. The woman slowly, hesitantly raises a hand, pressing it against the cold glass partition. Mia lets out a gasp, a sound caught between a sob and a shout of disbelief. It's real. It's actually her. Elaine Carter. Her mother. Alive. But this reunion is far from a happy ending. There's no time for relief, no time for tears of joy just yet. The air in the lab is thick with tension. Behind the console, Mia sees them. Crates filled with glowing neural quantum modules. And on the main screen, a progress bar for something called Project X is steadily climbing. The lab is silent, but it's a loaded silence, buzzing with unspoken secrets and imminent danger. The truth hits Mia like a physical blow, crashing down on her all at once. Her mother didn't just vanish into thin air all those years ago. She was here. She was embedded deep within this top-secret project. And her father, her own father, never told her. He had to protect her, to keep the most dangerous secret in the world locked away. And now, by searching for the truth, Mia has walked right into the heart of that secret. For one beautiful, fragile moment, hope blooms. The doors slide open, and mother and daughter are finally in the same room. They rush into an embrace, a collision of years of longing and loss. Tears are flowing freely, their bodies trembling. There are no words. What could they possibly say? Words are too small for a moment this big. It's a powerful, raw, and emotional reunion, with Elon standing respectfully to the side, giving them their space. But just as quickly as the moment arrives, it's ripped away. Blaring alarms suddenly erupt, shattering the peace. Red lights flash, painting the room in a terrifying glow. The vault's integrity field has been breached. The monitors, which just moments ago showed the progress of Project X, now display a new, more urgent crisis. An intruder is inside the server grid. This isn't an external hack. The breach is coming from within the Bureau. Someone they trust, someone with high-level access, is actively sabotaging the project. They're unlocking the neural quantum modules, preparing them for sale on the black market or for some other, even more sinister misuse. Mia, her mind still reeling from finding her mother, forces herself to focus on the screen. It's a cascade of scrolling code, open ports, and remote handshakes. It's complex, but it's a language she understands. And then she sees it, a specific code signature, and digital fingerprint she knows as well as her own name. It's linked to her father's badge number. She freezes. Time seems to slow down. The noise of the alarms fades into a dull roar in the background. It can't be. The shock of betrayal hits her harder than anything that's come before. Her father, the man she idolized, the man who raised her, the hero she's been trying to live up to her entire life. Has he gone rogue? The emotional climax of this chapter is just thunderous. Everything Mia has ever believed in, love, trust, family, it all shatters in a single horrifying second. The system displays a live feed of the user controlling the sabotage, and she sees him, her father. His face is calm, collected as he remotely manipulates the system, dismantling the project he was sworn to protect. The father she revered is now the prime suspect. The hero is now the villain. And that's where we leave it. Mia is trapped in a glass room with a mother she thought was dead and the devastating knowledge that her father might be the greatest traitor of all. What an incredible, gut-wrenching turn of events. What does this mean for Project X? Can Mia stop him? And the biggest question of all, why? Why would her father do this? Let me know your theories in the comments below. What do you think is going on? I'm dying to hear your thoughts on this chapter. It's just masterfully written suspense. Thank you so much for joining me today to break this down. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part of our analysis. We'll be back soon to tackle the next chapter. Until then, take care and keep wondering. Scene opens, tense music swells and then fades into a subtle, investigative background track. Have you ever felt like your entire life was a lie? Imagine discovering the people you trust most are at the center of a conspiracy that could change the world. That's exactly what happened to Mia. One moment she's hoping for a family reunion. The next she's in a locked vault, alarms screaming, with her mother whispering, "You know what has to happen." The air crackled with tension. Elon Musk, yes, that. Elon Musk stepped forward, his face grim. "We need to shut it down now." With a tap on a console, the heavy vault doors slammed shut, locking them in. Outside, guards pounded on the steel, their shouts muffled by the blaring alarms. It was chaos, a nightmare. But in that whirlwind of danger, something inside Mia clicked. A strange clarity washed over her. She tore the lid off the main console, her fingers flying across the wires and modules. She could feel the hum of immense power, a familiar symphony from her countless nights of study. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, a mantra from her training. "Find the pattern, Mia. Always find the pattern." And then she saw it. A single, elegant anomaly in the cascading lines of code. It was her own digital signature, a secret backdoor she'd built years ago, a backup override just in case. A ghost in the machine. Without a second thought, she made her move. It was drastic, a gamble that could fry the entire system, but it was their only shot. She triggered a full containment routine. The servers, which had been glowing an angry, hostile red, suddenly flickered and shifted to a calm, steady blue. The override was locked in. On the main screen, they watched as the digital breach collapsed, the intruder's connection violently severed. Silence. Then, a low grinding sound as the massive vault door began to open. Armed agents flooded the room, their weapons ready. And there, cornered, stood the architect of the chaos, the intruder. Her father, Robert Carter. His shoulders slumped in defeat as the agents surrounded him. Mia couldn't look away. The man who taught her the difference between right and wrong, the man who was her hero, was now under arrest for trying to destroy the very project he helped create. The sense of betrayal was a physical burn, searing through her, but even then a flicker of hope, fragile but persistent, ignited in her chest. She took a step toward him, past the agents, past the wreckage of their lives. "Dad," she said, her voice cracking with the weight of it all. He finally looked up, his eyes filled with a guilt so profound it was heartbreaking. "I'm sorry," he whispered, a sound barely heard above the dying hum of the servers. And in that moment, the three of them, mother, daughter, and father, were just a family, caught in the flickering lights of the vault, surrounded by the silence and the secrets that had torn them apart. All the choices, all the missing years, it all collapsed into the single crushing point in time. The days that followed were a media frenzy. Project X was no longer a secret. The FBI confirmed its existence, the world buzzed with speculation about Elon Musk's involvement, and the Carter family name was plastered across every headline. Mia, once a girl who hid behind lines of code, was thrust into a glaring, unforgiving limelight. But the external chaos can't matter as much as the transformation happening within. She wasn't that fearful girl anymore. She was a woman who had faced the abyss and found her purpose. She finally understood. The missing months of her life, the gaps in her memory, they weren't a void. They were preparation. They were her training. In the quiet moments, away from the cameras, she sat with her parents. Her mother, Elaine, explained everything. She had volunteered to go undercover within Project X because she discovered its potential to endanger all of humanity. It was a threat that had to be neutralized from the inside. Her father had known. He had supported her mother's dangerous mission but had made the impossible choice to keep it from Mia, believing it was the only way to protect her. His betrayal, his attempt to breach the system, "I did it to protect you," he said, his voice heavy with the burden of his actions. He was trying to get her out, to shield her from the fallout he knew was coming. Listening to him, Mia felt it all, the hot sting of anger, the deep well of sorrow, but underneath it all something else began to surface. Forgiveness. She forgave him. Not because his actions were right, but because for the first time she understood the impossible position he was in. She understood the love that drove him to make such a terrible choice. Her mother's words resonated deeply. "Love isn't perfect," she said, taking Mia's hand. "Sacrifice is never easy, but choosing to do what's right no matter the cost, that is what defines us." As Mia looked out the lab window at the swirling colors of the dusk, a profound sense of peace settled over her, a calm she had never known. The lies were gone. The secrets were out. And in the wreckage, she had found not only her family, but herself. This story is a powerful reminder that our greatest trials are often our greatest teachers, and that true strength is found not in avoiding the darkness, but in facing it head-on. What do you think you would have done in Mia's shoes? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss our next deep dive. Until next time, stay curious. Elon Musk himself offered me the role. Can you believe it? He wanted me to lead the ethical oversight for something called Project X. This wasn't just some corporate gig. It was about bridging the gap between groundbreaking private innovation and the trust of the public. I accepted. Not because I was chasing a title or a bigger paycheck, but because I felt a profound sense of responsibility. This technology was too powerful to be left unchecked. The day of the final meeting arrived. The room was packed with the sharpest minds you could imagine, renowned ethicists, high-ranking government officials, and the very tech innovators who were pushing the boundaries of what was possible. And there I was, sitting at the head of the table. Mia, who had spent so long working behind the scenes, was now in a position to actually shape the future. I caught Elon's eye from across the room. He gave me a slight, respectful nod. "You did what few can," he said, his voice low but clear. A small, quiet smile was all I could manage in return. It was a moment of validation, a recognition of the long, difficult road I'd traveled. But that wasn't the real story. The real story was the punchline, the reveal that left every single person in that room utterly stunned. The true purpose of Project X wasn't what anyone had assumed. It wasn't about creating some superintelligence or consolidating power. Its mission was something far more human, more profound. Project X was built to heal. It was designed to restore memory, to erase trauma, to rebuild broken relationships, and to bring devastating secrets into the light. And then came the most personal shock of all. My mother's disappearance, the mystery that had haunted my entire life, wasn't a random tragedy. It was intrinsically linked to this mission. She had been part of a crucial test, a trial for a module designed to reconnect minds that had been separated by trauma or distance. The very technology that had kept her away from me, the system that I had once seen as a source of pain, was also the miracle that brought her back. Innovation and love impossibly, intricately entwined. Standing outside the imposing FBI building one last time, I watched as dusk settled over the city, turning the sky into a canvas of deep purples and oranges. The lights of Washington, D.C. began to glitter, their reflections dancing on the dark surface of the Potomac River. I looked up at that towering edifice, a structure that had once symbolized mystery, authority, and the secrets that tore my family apart. Now, it was just a building, a place where my life had been completely and irrevocably rewritten. A thought crystallized in my mind. Life is endlessly full of surprises, but love, true and resilient, will always, always lead the way home. I could feel the weight of my past settling comfortably on my shoulders, no longer a burden but a foundation. I could feel the hope for the future, a bright, shimmering promise of everything we could build now that we had brought courage, trust, and innovation together. I felt my mother's hand slip into mine, its warmth a familiar comfort I thought I'd lost forever. My father stood beside us, his presence a steady anchor. I even pictured Elon smiling across a cafeteria, this strange, unconventional family we had formed, bound by a shared purpose and an infinite sense of possibility. As we walked away from the building and into the embrace of the night, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. When you finally confront the hidden parts of yourself, the parts you've locked away or run from, the biggest shock isn't the betrayal or the pain you might find. It's the discovery of your own incredible, unyielding strength. In a world saturated with mysteries and secrets, in an age of unbelievable technological advancement, the only force as powerful as any invention is, and will always be, the human heart. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. It's stories like these that remind us of the power of hope and human connection. If you were moved by this story, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss what's coming next. I'll see you in the next video.